You had 5 children naturally. How could you possibly know the pain of not being able to conceive children when you've had 5 seemingly easily, and how could you then campaign to deny others a chance?
Well, I know something of what it's like to go through miscarriage because I've experienced that myself. Because I haven't experienced infertility, admittedly, I can't begin to know personally how devastating it is. However, I do have lots of friends who've gone through it. And I think when we're looking at IVF and the NHS, we actually have to make an objective clinical decision, no matter how hard that is. Now, as your reports just said, you know, actually the chances of conceiving via IVF, are very, very slim. And if these success rates were applied to any other kind of treatment, NICE would be saying, no, we're not going to fund them. Now, that's not to say infertility is unimportant and people should just get over it. Actually, I think there is a much wider debate that needs to be had about female and male fertility and when women need to think about having their children. Now, that's not to blame people either for leaving it late. I think women have a huge amount of pressure on them at the moment, you know, to go through university, to establish themselves in a good career, and then they have to meet somebody. And obviously, you know, for a lot of women, by the time they start trying, they're in their late 30s, and that's often...
They suddenly realise it can be too
you know,
late.
so it's not about blaming women, but saying, can we have a wider conversation about fertility?
Well, Sarah, let's talk to you about that, because the cost is something that has come back to us from our viewers as well. £3,500 just for the one cycle, and it's a 1 in 5 chance. That drops to a 1 in 20 chance for someone who's 42 or older. And the reality is, sadly, our NHS is stretched. They're desperately trying to find money for all sorts of different services, and this is, for some people, just too much.
Yeah, the NHS is strapped for cash, and that's a political issue. But in relation to fertility treatment, there's been a nice guideline in place saying that it's cost and clinically effective since 2004. NICE reviewed that evidence in 2013 and came up with to the same conclusion. So they consider it to be both cost and clinically effective. Successive governments have said that this should be available on the NHS. You know, it is a really fundamental part of the health service, treating things that aren't just life-saving.
So with all that advice that's saying it is cost-effective, over and over again, why are 7 NHS regions across the UK stopping funding for IVF?
They're blaming their lack of finances for doing this. Also, what we're seeing is that clinical commissioning groups are ignoring NICE and are sort of doing their own research on a bit of an ad hoc basis.
And not handing it. I mean, we've had a lot of comments from people, as you can imagine, very passionate about it. One on the no, it shouldn't be funded front is Jan, who says, listen, the people that have to make these decisions are just human. What would you do if a parent or a loved one needed life-saving treatment, or would you go for that or IVF? You know, when it comes down to it, you have to make a decision.
This is why we need to have things done at a higher level, because what we're seeing as fertility fairness and what we're working on with NHS England is trying to improve the clinical commissioning of this service, because there are huge inefficiencies. So yesterday I met a male patient who'd got a fertility problem. He'd been sent to gynecology. Now, you don't have to have a medical degree to know that he's not going to be fixed by a gynaecologist. No. So there are huge inefficiencies. Women are having unnecessary treatments that don't come out of this pot of money, but are obviously a huge cost. So they're having laparoscopies, which would pay for a cycle of IVF. So we need a streamlined patient pathway.